Hello, beautiful and handsome world changers. Welcome back to the Nomad CEO Podcast. I'm Kenz, your host, and today I'm riding solo. I am actually in Cabo, Mexico, and I flew in yesterday from Paris, France. So from Europe to North America, and 8, 9 hours, 10 hours, I don't even know anymore, and how much the time difference was. So I was up for 24 hours. However, I had gotten up at 4 a.m. France time and I went to bed at 9 p.m. Mexico time. So it's just kind of funny. But just sharing that I'm in an Airbnb here and I am here for my beautiful cousin's wedding. And I am so pumped because she is the first one in our family on that side of my family to get more of us beyond US borders. So I'm like, yes, let's go. And so that's super exciting to all be here. And then obviously her just committing to the love of her life and going into their marriage together. I'm so pumped to celebrate that. So, and I'm a bridesmaid, so that'll be fun. Anyway, so here I am today. I like to share where I'm at, and I need to do that more because it's kind of like a little video diary of locations. But I'm actually going to talk today about something that I have recently gotten back to, and it has been a huge, it's the one of the biggest game changers that I could ever do in my life. So today I'm going to talk about fasting. Now, before you maybe click ahead or exit out of this, if you do not like that topic, or maybe you have a weird relationship with fasting or you don't believe in it, hey, totally get it. I'm not here to convince you to fast as much as I am here to share with you the power of abstaining from things that we want. And I'm going to talk about the benefits, the health benefits of fasting. I'll allude to the spiritual benefits of fasting. That is something that you can do on your own if that's important to you. And I'll share how I do it. But more than anything, the principles of what it gives us mentally. So there's mental, physical, and spiritual benefits to fasting. Now, fasting in the simplest context is abstaining from something, aka food in most regards, right? But it's really just saying no. And it's deciding that I'm going to say no for however long. And it's managing that decision. So that's what we're talking about today. I'm so excited to share on this because I got into physical health beneficial fasting, intermittent fasting, several years ago. And it's not something that I had ever thought I could do because of my background with food. If you've listened to other episodes, I talk about that. But it just now doing it and having done it honestly quite a lot in that time, it has. And I've done it successfully and I've done it unsuccessfully, quote unquote. Okay. And I'll talk about that more. It has become an arrow in my quiver. Whenever I need a little kick in the pants, whenever I need to hit the freaking reset button. And it's, again, not just one of those things. It is a multi-dimensional beneficial thing to do. So I'm going to dive right in. All right, first, I'm going to talk about the mental benefits of fasting, and then I'll talk about the physical, and then I'll just touch on the spiritual, and not in any specific, religion context, but rather just that what you can gain from that. So mentally, when we fast from something, again, it's essentially saying no. Now, I have a background with addiction. That's just been part of my story. And one definition of addiction that I've heard over the years is the inability to say no. So to go from a place of being quote unquote unable to say no to certain things like food, certain types of food, to then to get to the place of I'm going to say no, number one, and number two, I'm going to hold on to that no. I'm going to flex that no as strong as I can. I'm going to build my no muscle. Right? And it's not just a no to whatever might be, whether it's food or maybe you're fasting social media or maybe you're fasting any sort of habit or maybe even a person in your life. Being able to say no to that, like that gives you so many more things that you can say yes to that honestly, you may not even know until you get into the place that you've said no. And so mentally, number one, I think this is the number one mental thing that fasting from not just food, but anything gives me. It's self-trust. Self-trust. Now, there's a book called The Speed of Trust, and forgive me, I'm going to probably reference a couple books in this, and I don't always remember the author, so you can Google it, but Speed of Trust. And what I remember from that book is it's basically, if you think of rings of circles, so like you have the center of the circle is you, and then you have a ring, beyond a circle beyond that center. And that is, and I might, again, it's been a long time since I've read it, so I might butcher this a little bit, but it's essentially those immediately around you. And then beyond that, it's the people that you know, and they know you. And then beyond that, it's people you don't know. And again, that's probably labeled differently in the actual book, but that's the essence of the circles. Okay. And it's so interesting because I've done sales, in some capacity for a long time. And whenever people are like, I don't know if I trust you, sometimes, not all the time, because there's healthy discernment, and I have that same thing, but sometimes it's because they don't trust themselves. So they don't have that inner circle. They don't have that immediate center on lock where their yes means yes or no means no, to then come to me, a stranger, and whether I was in the context of sales or just as a person, and be able to discern, is this person trustworthy? Because I know from my own relationship with myself what trustworthy looks like, what it feels like. I intuitively, from a gut level sense, understand that. And from a practical sense of like, this is what it looks like when someone's trustworthy, right? These are the behaviors that match that characteristic. And I say self-trust because I really do believe that, the saying that you may have heard, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And the longer that I live, I think there could be maybe some caveats to that, right? And we could talk philosophically, all day long, probably on different exceptions to that statement. I think generally, though, it's a pretty solid statement. Like how I interact with myself when it comes to my fasting from food or fasting from social media, or I'll say that is if I fast from food strong and I'm good at that, it's a lot easier to fast from social media. It's a lot easier to fast from X, Y, or Z, for example, because I know what it looks like here. And that mentality is transferable. And so I love the benefits of fasting because it's saying that self-trust is saying, I said I was going to do X and I did X. So therefore my thoughts, my words, my intentions match my actions, my behaviors, and my habits. And my friends, that gap, the less of a gap that there is between what we say we're going to do and what we actually do, the higher probability of success, the higher probability of self-trust and even confidence in our own self-image, right? And I don't want to say our self-worth because I don't think what we do, in my opinion, should be tied to our worthiness as a human because we all mess up, we all fall short. But from a sense of like, man, okay, yeah, like I trust me, I follow through, I'm that person. And going back to the circle of trust, when I trust me, following through on what I say I was going to do, then it's a lot easier to see what trust looks like in you, right? Or it's a lot easier to be like, that person doesn't trust themselves because I know what it looks like when I don't trust myself. And there's contrast from when I don't trust myself to when I do trust myself. So I'm just saying like, if you're battling self-trust, then consider fasting from something. It doesn't just have to be food. I'm going to talk about food. I'm going to talk about it from a health perspective, but maybe it is. Social media is a big thing for a lot of people. I fast social media often, right? I do not. Okay, so let me lead into this. The second thing that fasting gives me is self-control. Now, let me explain the difference. How I see this, one angle in how I see self-control is that let's say I have a piece of food. Let's say I have, I'm deciding to do a food fast, okay, from all food and just drink water and maybe even drink electrolytes and potentially a black coffee, whatever it might be. So there's different types of fast that I'll do, but let's just say it's from all food. Well, the power of fasting is saying that I control me. I can yield my thoughts enough. I can wield rather my thoughts enough to say that I control me, not what's outside of me. So that food in front of me does not control me. I control me. That, my friends, is one of the most liberating feelings, in my opinion, of what we could have as a human. Like, again, being someone that has battled addiction and feeling like I can't say no to things, that things outside of me control me, that was actually a fallacy. That's not true. I could not control myself. And there's a lot, that's a whole other conversation. I won't go into this episode, but man, is that freeing. Man, is it just so empowering and invigorating to recognize that there is nothing outside of myself that is going to overpower my own internal power. I own that. And if you've been in a place in your life, which I think most people have, I certainly have, where you've given your power away, you've given your power away to food, you've given your power away to impulsive spending and items, you've given your power away to other people in relationships. Ooh, doggy, that's a big one right there. And you've taken your power back. Ooh, is that good? Ooh, does that feel spicy, right? You're like, things are getting saucy because man, am I empowered. It's so good. And man, having that self-control, To me, that's really the fundamentals of not only achieving success in life in whatever endeavor, but sustaining it. Because it's one thing to get to the mountaintop, it's another thing to stay there. It's entirely different to stay there. And if you're a goal-oriented person, if you're, high achieving, which you probably are, if you're listening to a podcast as CEO in it, then you get what that's like. You get what it's like if you're hitting numbers at work, or if you get some sort of recognition, or maybe you do have a big social media presence and you achieve something there, whatever it might be. Like, you know what it's like when you taste that achievement and then when you lose it. Like, that's something that humbled me in my earlier days of leadership is I just wanted to hear my name. I was so insecure. I was so self-conscious that I needed, again, external things to validate me, external accomplishments or recognition to say, you're good enough, Mackenzie, right? Like, you're worthy. And that was fleeting. And it literally broke me because I had done that enough where I'd achieved and I succeeded and I got the reward or I got the recognition or I got the whatever. And then when it went away, it was like earth shattering. It was just like I'm such a deeply feeling type person that it broke me. It was like, I cannot operate my life this way because it is so volatile. It is so up and down. It is such a freaking roller coaster. It's exhausting. And that's also what led me to numb with things like food, is because I couldn't handle that high and that low. It was like, oh my gosh, this is like way too much for me. I need something to regulate outside of me, versus self-control says I regulate me, right? I know what my tools are to help with that regulation. And the thing about self-control that's so beautiful is it's not saying that you're bionic. It's not saying that you're inhuman and that you can never falter, that you never fall short. It's just saying, I have found other ways that are healthy ways that serve me to sustain control. That could be taking quality time off and having downtime. That could be deep breathing when you're in the moment, or just, oxygenating your cells in your brain, because when we're stressed, we stop breathing. And so every cell in our body needs oxygen. So when we're not breathing, every cell in our body is stressed, right? So if you're like, how do I not feel so stressed? Well, just start with a good freaking breath, right? Like start with like not only the inhale and holding it, but the exhale. Activate that parasympathetic nervous system, activate that rest and digest to regain that sense of control. Exhale the BS, right? Man, so self-trust, self-control, the power of fasting, it gives you that. And now I'm going to continue on in no particular order. I'd say those are the two top things that are like close to the chest for your girl, is clarity. I really do believe that when we fast from something, it allows us to, I see it this way. This is an analogy I use with clients a lot, is whenever we have a problem, it's like we're staring right in front of the tree, right? And all we see is the tree. It's right in front of our face. The tree, quote unquote, is a problem, right? It could be an obstacle. It could be, man, I keep hitting my head and eating the same food every night, or it could be, I keep overspending this money, or it could be, I keep, snapping in my relationship, whatever that quote unquote tree is. And when we fast, and we say no to something, whether it is that thing or not, it could be something else, but especially if it's entailed in that thing, then we can see the forest. We start to see the bigger picture. We start to understand, I see what's to the left of me. I see what's to the right of me. I see what's behind me and before me, right? Or even above me and below me. Like, I start to see the fuller picture, and I have now more clarity. And I don't believe that we can often get to that place of clarity until we've embraced a strong no. Because then it helps us get out of the weeds of our own thoughts, our own routines, day to day, the quote unquote business, yada, yada, and just be like, why am I freaking doing this? What's the point of it all anyways? And we can start to think reflectively. It creates space. Because this is the thing, forgive me, I've heard different stats, if it's 60,000 or 90,000 or more, whatever, of how many thoughts we have in a day. Let's just say it's 90. Okay. If someone like me, it's probably 90. I'm a high energy human, and that translates to my thoughts, right? So let's say it's 90. Well, it is, I'm recording this on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. Well, Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, Fool's Day, April Fools. Unless if I didn't have the hour in the morning that I have every single morning in renewing my mind, I have the same exact thoughts that I had yesterday. I'm in a different country. And so my environment is drastically different from France to Mexico. But yesterday, I had the exact same thoughts as I do today. And you know what? March 30th. Is there 31 days in March? However many days. I forget now. Whatever. You do that knuckle thing. This is totally a squirrel moment. January, February, March. 31 days. Okay, so March 31st, 2026, which is a Tuesday, if I'm doing my math right. Yes, I'm actually good at math, so this is funny. Tuesday, I had the same exact thoughts as I did Wednesday and I did today, unless I chose to have different ones. And so there's so much power in creating clarity because it starts to, we then can question ourselves in a healthy way to say, why do I believe that? Why am I accepting that? Why don't I change that? And that is clarity and creating space. And fasting creates space. Fasting zooms out and says, what's the forest look like? And is this the forest that I want to freaking be in, right? Or do I want to, or maybe I do, but I want to go look at another tree for a while, right? I'm done with this tree. Or I'm going to weed that tree out and get rid of it. I'm going to plant new seeds because, you got to do that with trees and like it's healthy, but you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's number 3. Number 4, mentally, and I'm just going to give a handful mentally and I'll move on, is delayed gratification. It is a muscle. It is such a freaking muscle. Delaying gratification means that you say, I don't need this now. Or I'm maybe I might quote unquote need it now for some reason, whatever it might be, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to obtain it. I'm not going to do this right now. I can do it in the future. It's not even, sometimes it's a no, but really delayed gratification alludes to the fact that it's actually a not yet. That I'm going to start playing the long game. I'm going to start playing the long game and saying, you know what? I can have my cake and eat it too, but in this capacity, may just have the cake and have the cake, quote unquote. It's funny, I'm talking about a cake analogy with fasting, but I mean, it can apply. I may have the cake and just keep it. I wouldn't keep it in the fridge. I may have the cake. This is not a good analogy. Hopefully, you get what I'm saying. I may have my cake now and eat it a week later. Okay. Or, hey, I may have the money to spend on something now, but I'm not just going to spend money for the sake of spending money or soothing myself to feel like, and I'm a spender. I'm a nerd spender. If you know Dave Ramsey, I freaking track every dime I spend. I have spreadsheets. I've done it for years, like seriously since I was a teenager, a late teen, especially in college. I really honed in and I've never stopped. I'm a tracker and I'm a spender. So it's kind of a funny combination because I always see like, wow, did I really need to buy that? Right. So coming from someone that understands instant gratification to the very unhealthy degree, delaying gratification is a muscle, and the more you flex it, the stronger it gets. And fasting is practice in delaying gratification. So I think that one's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna throw that there. Lastly, I'm gonna say this: self-respect, self-trust, self-control, self-respect are actually different. Self-trust is a belief in your actions, is a belief in your follow-through. Self-control is saying, I control me, that thing outside of me, no one else or nothing else controls me. I control me. And self-respect is really how we value ourselves. Now, there's 2 layers to this, in my opinion. There's our own self-worth that we have to derive that's beyond anything that we do. And for me, it's a spiritual root. You have to identify that for yourself. If you don't know what that is, I would go on an exploration journey. But self-respect is really, it's raising your standards. It's how you value yourself. I'll give you an example in dating. And I've had to learn this the hard way. But if you're a single person or if you're married, think back to when you're single. If you don't have self-respect, which is, again, this context might hopefully help make sense of how it's different from trust and control, is you would probably date someone that wouldn't respect you, that would violate your boundaries, that, wouldn't, treat you with kindness and respect and honor. Because if you don't respect you, then someone else is going to maybe consciously or subconsciously see that. And if they're not the person that has self-respect for themselves or is considerate enough to respect you, then you're going to take that. And believe it or not, fasting is a level of self-respect to say, why would I engage with something that's harming me? Why would I engage in, eating this food or, going online on social media if that's your tick, because it used to be mine. And quite frankly, I'm proactive now, otherwise it could become mine again. But I'm proactive if I ever get somewhat close to that. I'm like, I'm going to fast from social. It is not going to control me, baby. No way, Jose. I was trying to add frickin' in that, but for effect, and that just didn't work. So regardless, self-respect is, man, it's something that when you start to feel it and have it, especially in like, say, a dating dynamic where you're like, nah, I'm not going to take that. Like, I don't deserve that. Like, I am worthy. Like, I'm worthy, number one, but also I respect me enough that I wouldn't treat myself that way. So I'm not going to take that behavior from you. And I really believe that fasting builds that. I do. I think especially, in the sense of like, I value myself enough not to continue to berate myself or beat myself down or behave in this way because it's just not honoring of me. Like, I'm a good person. Like, I deserve to treat myself like I would treat my very best friend. For me, I am my own very best friend in the sense that like I enjoy spending time with myself. I make myself laugh, me and me have a lot of jokes together, right? Like I'm kind to myself. I will build myself up. I will forgive myself. I will create space for me. And that's taken, I'm almost 34, a long time to get to. Okay. And I still have room for growth, but it's like, that is now my default versus before it was like a foreign language. And so those are some things that fasting can do for you. I can go on. This is not an exhaustive list, y'all. It is just for me in this moment now getting in my fasting muscle again, what I found benefit in. Now, I'm going to talk from a health perspective, a physiological perspective. And if this is your first time listening to me, I just want to give a little context for the sense of like, I'm a freaking nerd for health. And I've worked in the health industry for, it's crazy, I think 14 years now. Kind of wild, kind of crazy, y'all. Yeah. So anyways, love health. And I definitely want to talk about it. Before I dive into the health, I have a couple of disclaimers, okay? From a fasting perspective. And I'm going to talk about fasting from food. Okay, I'm going to go there. Now, as someone that has an eating disorder past and binge purge was like my normal for so long, I never would have thought that I could do this. Okay, and it has been a multi-dimensional healing process. I have treaded lightly to get here. It has not been an overnight thing. It has not been forced. It has been actually in flow to be able to get to this place of voluntarily fasting and abstaining from food for, an extended period of time versus before I was on a different planet. I had a different mental paradigm. And so if that's where you're at, then my deep encouragement from my heart of hearts is to say, if you're at a place where you're like, I have an unhealthy relationship with food, I have an unhealthy relationship with myself, or even an unhealthy relationship with whatever, it may not even just be food, that going from one extreme to the other, I do not recommend that. That is probably the default if that is something that you battle is this unhealthy relationship with food or anything. Because that was me and working with so many clients, it's for a lot of people. And so just give yourself permission if you want to get to the place genuinely to have the benefits of what I'm going to talk about to get there. And it could take years, and that's okay. It took me years, right? And it took a lot. It took a lot of inching. It wasn't a big leap. They were baby little steps. And so I want to say that because it's actually far more common for people to be in that place than it is to be in this place in our world today. At least the conversations I've had, at least people that are seeking to improve this area. And so that's okay. And my hope and my prayer is that going through these things can just be little seeds, right? Little seeds that are planted into your mind of, what would it look like if? And this is another thing too, and it's coaching, it's not really a technique, but you can call it that, of like if someone's like, I don't want to give this up. I don't, Mackenzie, Coach Ken's, Mac Daddy, just kidding. I don't want to stop behaving this way. Then I'm like, cool, you don't have to. I'm not telling you not to. Like if you're so attached to that thing and you're holding on to it so tightly, I'm not going to convince you. I'm just not. I'm not that good. So, okay, don't give it up. And I would encourage you actually tell yourself that you don't have to give it up. You don't have to do it. You can do whatever you want. You have free will. You can do what you want. The caveat to that is if you choose not to give that thing up, then do not expect yourself to have the result of the person that did give it up. That's just unfair. That's just not going to mentally serve you. And by telling yourself that, I don't have to do this thing. I don't do anything. It's so crazy the reverse psychology on ourselves that can have. It often frees us up to be like, oh, okay, actually, I kind of want to do it, right? Because it gives us autonomy. It gives us again, that self-control. It gives us that sense of, I choose what I do. You don't tell me what I do kind of thing. And everyone's wired differently. There's, different tendencies, but just from that perspective. And so I would just say that, like, I don't have to ever do this. You can have a long, healthy life and never fast. You can. There's a lot of ways to be healthy, right? Or at least maybe never fast to the degree that, I personally have or others have, because I've been fasted as long as you possibly can. So that's, man, such a big disclaimer here. Secondly, is I'm not saying that you have to fast from food. I'm saying if you, number one, that disclaimer is around food. Secondly, around anything, my encouragement to you would be to just explore what that would look like, right? Just like, if we use a gym analogy, if you've never been in the gym, so to speak, go up and pick up a weight, see what it feels like, test it out. See how much 5 pounds is and how heavy that is, and just holding weight by your side versus 20. Just test it. See, that's what that feels like. Oh, okay. Right. And I would say start small. If you're going to choose to fast from food, start small. Don't start with 72 hours. Do not do that. That is actually not helping you. Start with maybe you fast, like maybe you eat as late, maybe you go to bed at let's say 11 p.m. and you wake up at 6 a.m. 7 hours of sleep. Hopefully you get a little bit more, but 7 hours is a good base for a lot of people. Let's say you eat at 11 p.m. and you eat at 6 a.m. Well, that's only a 7-hour fast. That's why it's called breakfast, break fast, because you're breaking your fast. Well, maybe you just start with stop eating at 10:30. What would that look like, right? Or maybe, and then you start to inch up to 10. And you start to inch up to 9:30. And then you start to inch up to 9. And this could take you days, weeks, right? It might take you months. I think that if it took you months for that, you may not be super dedicated to changing that behavior, but nonetheless, give yourself some space to do it at your pace. Ooh, space at your pace. I was talking about space for grace, but space at your pace. That's a new one, y'all. There you go. You heard it from me first right here. Anyway, so give yourself that. Just start small and build the muscle. So, okay, let's dive into the health side. So let me just talk about different types of fast. So intermittent fasting, probably no news to you. It's basically saying no to food for a certain window of time. Now, the most simple, actual fast that people typically would start with from a health perspective, if again, you're that 11 p.m., 6 a.m. kind of person, which I've been, just so you know, and take this the right way. I can still be that at times. I will still have moments that I'll eat something before bed. And let me tell you, I can feel the difference. It is not my preferred method of eating. I would way rather not do that, but it can still happen. So anyways, but generally that's not the case. It's a 12-12. So for 12 hours, you're abstaining from food. And from 12 hours, you have a 12-hour eating window. So maybe 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., for example. That is a window of fasting. And there's benefits to that. I would say minimum, if you're you're looking to get into fasting, start with the 12-12, right? If you're not currently do that, just start there. Or maybe inch to that being your goal if you're at the 7-hour fast, right? Like I said prior. And then from there, it typically builds. And typically it'll build, depending on the book you read, the person you listen to, whatever, it might build. I'm just gonna use 2-hour windows as an example, but you can inch up by 15 minutes at a time or whatever. So let's say you do 12-12, and then let's say you do a 14-10. So 14 hours that you're not eating. So now you might eat, I personally prefer to eat breakfast. So I'm going to use my example. But a lot of people use the alternative where they say, don't eat breakfast, eat dinner, because you're private family, you're going to want to eat with them. I totally get that. Your girl's single's a Pringle, traveling world by herself. I eat alone a lot, So I do it based off how my body feels, not because I'm eating food with other people all the time. So use it in your way that you will. So I personally prefer to eat early in the day. So I would start eating at say 7 a.m., or that's the first time that I have calories. And so when I say eating, it's calories, y'all. So if you put cream in your coffee at 5:30, you broke your fast. I don't care if you talk from a actual fasting perspective, you broke it. So it's 5:30. But if you have nothing, just water or even black coffee, which black coffee technically can have, still have calories, but there's different types of fast. So you can do super hardcore. I will have black coffee typically. And it's actually got me to like black coffee. That's wild, y'all. Man, that's crazy if you wouldn't know me. Anywho, kind of fun what we can do, right? But let's say it was 7 a.m. to now 5 p.m., which I'd stop eating at 5 p.m. and then start eating the next day. Or you can move to a 16-8, or you can just continue to inch it up from there. And the thing is the longer you go without eating and abstaining, the higher probability that you're going to start taking in something called autophagy. Okay, so set the stage of what fasting is a bit here. But autophagy, if you don't know, it's cellular cleanup. It means self-eating. And I use it this way. This is kind of an oversimplistic example here. So, if you understand science and biology and physiology and everything, there could be caveats to this, okay? But I'm just going to use this example of our cell health. We have trillions, I think, of cells. Again, I hear different numbers, but we have a lot of cells in our body. If we think of our cell health on a scale of 1 to 10, okay, 10 out of 10 being the healthiest, 1 out of 10 being not the healthiest. Well, ideally, when we're born, we're 10 out of 10 in our cells, right? And as we age with growing up and so many reasons that could cause us to not have better health, the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, if we get an injury, whatever it might be, the clothes that we wear, that our cell health can start to tick down that scale. Now, there can be a lot of reasons that would accelerate and so on and so forth, but let's just say you got some cells floating around that are twos, threes, and fours. When you get into fasting and autophagy starts to kick in, then the body will say, hey, I'm not so preoccupied and focused on, breaking down this food and distributing the nutrients to the body and then getting the rest out through waste, whatever. Now I can start to look at getting rid of the other things in my body that are no longer serving me, like these cells that are 2, 3s, and 4s. And I'm going to start to break them down and get rid of those. I'm going to start to eliminate them out of my body. I'm going to start to now feel better. And this is the crazy thing about fasting. So if you've never fasted before and you start, oh my gosh, you can feel some side effects. You can feel some withdrawals, y'all. Like if you stop eating sugar, oh my gosh, you can get headaches. You can feel awful, because the body is like, I'm used to that. I'm used to running on sugar. I'm used to that thing to kind of preoccupy me from all this stuff. Now I don't have that thing. Now it's like oh my gosh, I got to actually address what's going on in me. I got to get rid of this other crap, basically. I'm oversimplifying it. But so when we go into autophagy, we're eating those quote unquote unhealthy cells, we're eliminating them, we're, breaking them down, whatever. And now we start to feel good. Like if you get past the withdrawal window, oh my gosh, if you talk to anyone that fasts, they're like, man, I feel so good. I feel so good, baby. Like I have more energy. It's crazy. I'm not eating food, but I have energy. Like, isn't that where I get energy from? It's like, it's one source, right? But it is wild. Like, so autophagy is also linked to longevity. How long we live, baby. Isn't that, if you think about it, it's like, yeah, the healthier my cells are, then they would just keep on rocking for a longer period of time, But if I have more cells that are unhealthy, and what do cells do? They can start to replicate. And what is cancer? Uncontrolled cell growth. Then it could lead to different diseases, and that could then end my life potentially. And so there's so much power in fasting because it can just do the whole cleanup. Okay. There's a lot to that. I'm super passionate about it. It is very valuable. Okay. So the second health benefit of fasting that I would say is so powerful is an insulin reset. Now, what is insulin? It is a hormone. So whenever we eat food, say sugar, for example, or different carbs that can be converted to sugar, it translates to something called glucose, and that is the sugar in our blood. And so insulin reset basically says, hey, I'm not now taking this quote unquote sugar in, right, from food, so my insulin doesn't have to respond to it. So now it can start to just like, I'm oversimplifying a lot of this, but just calming down, right? It doesn't have to worry about doing its job so much. It's not on the roller coaster anymore. And that's really important because of the spectrum of where things can lead. And it's so crazy. A really good book, Good Energy by Casey Means, talks about this more of the insulin resistance that so many people, and so many books talk about it, but that many people have insulin resistance and don't even know it. And so when we fast, we're able to hit the reset button and say, hey, I'm going to get off this train, right? I'm not going to ride this anymore, basically. Okay, number 3, metabolic flexibility. Now, this might sound like, okay, what does that mean? To keep it super simple, we run on 2 forms of fuel from the food that we eat. We're either a sugar burner or a fat burner. Sugar burner, we're eating the sugar, right? We can eat carbs that convert to sugar, or we eat fat that converts it's converted to ketones. Okay, so we can train our body to switch between the two. It's good to be able to be a sugar burner and a fat burner. But where people get messed up is that they don't know how to be a fat burner, right? And so their body is just always burning sugar and they're not very flexible. Okay, so that's super important for sustained performance, sustained energy. And again, that's also correlated with our insulin levels. And so the more that we are consuming, I'll say it this way. This is, I'm taking a caveat from the fasting, for example. If you really want to explore this, there's something called a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. And that's something that you can wear. You probably see it all over social media. I personally wore it for a year collectively. I say collectively because I paused for certain periods throughout that year. Long story short, because it's a long time to wear a CGM and I had a lot of different stuff going on. But it showed me, okay, what's actually going on with my blood sugar? What's actually going on when I eat, a piece of bread versus when I eat a piece of chicken? And I say all this because being a sugar burner, metabolic flexibility, our insulin, everything is not only correlated to when we're not eating, but when we are eating. And so eating in such a way that we are prioritizing the proper macronutrients, the proper micronutrients is so important for these things as well. And how we eat is going to impact how we feel when we don't eat. And so wearing a CGM is going to tell you more an insight to you on, hey, when I eat the pasta versus when I eat the steak, how do I feel? Do I get on the insulin, or the roller coaster rather with my blood sugar? And then I get this spike of energy and then this crash of energy. Like, how does my body respond? Because every body is different. But generally speaking, most people do better when they're going to eat fiber at the very beginning of their meal. And because fiber fiber technically, if you know what a net carb is, it's basically taking your total amount of carbs minus the fiber. That's the net carbs, because our body is not going to keep the fiber in, it's going to excrete it. Okay. It helps our bowel movements. And so it's basically setting the stage for everything else that we eat to say, we're going in to regulate things. Again, simplifying it down. And then eating our protein, whatever that might be, and then eating our fat and carb. Now, this is the sequence of what we're eating is going to help us sustain energy, help reduce the blood sugar spike and dip and yada yada. And it can also help go into a fast and come out of a fast even better. Okay. So we're not just, immediately leaving the roller coaster every time. We're actually coming from a place of like, it's not rocky waves up and down, but rather smooth sailing into the fast and then back into eating. So I say all of this because if we're eating in that way, in that sequence, then that helps our body be able to transition between being a sugar and fat burner as well. Another example actually of being a fat burner is ketosis, meaning that we have very high volume of fat in the food that we're eating, moderate protein and low carbs. And so that's training our body to burn fat for fuel versus carbs. So anyways, I can go on a lot of tangents here. I'm super excited about this stuff, but to keep it simple, I just want to note on that. Okay, let's move on. Hormonal optimization. So our hormones are they players? Like, if you're a female listening to this, you already know. Okay, you already know, because your body is different every week. All right. Our hormones fluctuate, man. And if you're a man and you don't believe that to be true, I hate to break it to you, but we're just different. Okay. You got to embrace it. You just don't know. Okay. And I'm saying this with love, but men also have different hormones that women don't fully understand. Right. So like, I don't know what it's like for it to not have your hormones change every week. What is that like? I have no idea. I've never experienced it because mine always have, because I'm a woman, but it's optimizing those hormones to function in the way that they're supposed to. So again, I can go on a long rabbit trail with this, but insulin is a hormone. So if you think about that one hormone, for example, and if that's out of whack because of what we're eating and we're on that roller coaster, well, if you think that gets a reset, it gives an opportunity for other hormones to get a reset because they communicate with each other. They impact each other, right? So it helps you optimize that. It can support growth hormone. Fasting helps our fat loss hormones, so we can preserve more muscle and burn fat. We do that more efficiently. So many reasons. Okay, another reason is mental clarity and focus. Oh my gosh, is this powerful. In my experience, I've done a number, a dozen or more 72-hour fasts in the last number of years. I'm probably closer to 20 now. I haven't kept track, but in certain seasons, I've done it once a month on average, and it's just been like my rhythm. But it's so crazy because depending on how I go into the fast, again, why I use the example of like what we're eating when we're eating and how we're eating is sometimes I've had withdrawals. The more I've done it, the less I've had them. But, so you kind of have that first window where you're like, oh gosh, I know what it's like to not eat food. My body's adapting. Blah. And then we can go into a place of, feeling okay, like we're hungry, like maybe low energy, you kind of get that. But if you can push through that or build your body, and you don't always want to push through it, but especially women and when you fast, it's a whole other conversation. But if you can get there, the level of clarity on the other side is like, whoa, like I haven't maybe thought this good in years or a long time, or only when I'm eating a really certain way. So it is wild. Like, you have sharper thinking, less brain fog, because again, most people are eating highly processed foods that's just filled with a ton of junk that our body is not designed to consume. So when we free our body up from trying to process all of that, the brain's going to think better. Okay. It's wild. So just give it a go if you haven't. It is so helpful. Okay. Next is, I talked about this in the mindset piece, but the level of discipline that our body can then embrace, and it gets used to not eating It helps regulate our hunger hormones. It helps reset them. So we know, hey, this is actually true hunger, physiological hunger, not psychological hunger, or not, our hunger hormones can get out of whack with the food that we're eating. It can throw it off. It can get out of whack with lack of sleep. It can get out of whack with in so many ways. So this can help build self-trust around, when am I actually hungry? When do I actually want to eat food? What does my body need? And this is the thing about true hunger, is it's not immediate. And it's really typically not specific unless it's a nourishing food. Our body could be like, oh man, I'm really hungry for steak because I need iron or I need creatine or whatever, because that's in steak. But this is really, really powerful. So there's many physical benefits to fasting. I could go on and on. Lastly, from a spiritual perspective. Now, I'm speaking from my own spiritual perspective. It's funny. I was reading a book in our mastermind. We're reading The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and I'm on chapter 4, I believe. So stay tuned on if I would recommend this book to other people. I have not read it. I was wondering if I had, because I've read a lot of books like it, but anyways, it was the one book on the list to the team that I was like, I think I suggested 10. We did a poll and it won. And I was like, funny, the book I haven't read, but I want to read it. So this is cool. So anyways, but it's mixed reviews in our group on the book. So stay tuned. Nonetheless, I bring it up in the spiritual context because that book is it's kind of blowing my mind. But it said something really powerful. Actually, I'm going to pull it up. Okay, I'm going to read this paragraph from this book. And I'm sharing this because it doesn't, I'm like, oh, I like how this book has worded this in this way. And I'm hoping it makes sense to you without the context of the rest of the book, because I feel like it helps communicate to me how I feel about my faith. Like, I'm good in my faith. I'm secure in my faith. I know what I believe. I know where I stand. And it doesn't matter to me if you see that or not. Like, it really doesn't. Like, I care. Like, if you want to know about that and you want to talk about that, oh my gosh, absolutely. Right. And I don't say I don't care, but it's like, I'm not God. Yay. I'm just not. And so I'm not going to try and act like it. And I'm not, I don't have that power. Let me read this book. So it says, one man does not heal by a different power than another. It is true, he may have his own theory or method. There is only one process of healing, and that is faith. There is only one healing power, namely your subconscious mind. Select the theory and method you prefer. You can rest assured, if you have faith, you shall get results. Interesting. But I like how he worded that, because I'm like, yeah, whatever you believe is your healing power, is your light, like whatever method that is for you. To me, this is speaking from the context of the subconscious mind, and I can go down a whole rabbit trail on all this, but I was like, I appreciate the wording of that because that's my stance on this. So from a spiritual perspective, from my angle, okay, from a Christian context in scripture, if you have shared that same faith, I would encourage you. You can even just go to Google. It's in my Kindle Scribe right now. It's my journal. And I didn't want to share that here because this isn't what this podcast is about. But I would just go to Google and type in prayers in scripture on prayers and fasting. And I would study it. And I would encourage you to embrace that and lean on that and have that be, for me, it wasn't why I started fasting. I did it for health benefits, long story short, but it's really why I fast now. And it's a primary reason, and the health benefits follow. So it's interesting how that flipped. But yeah, I would look into that because I really do believe that can be your power when you're feeling weak, and have that be your guide. It's so beneficial. And what's so cool, again, from my perspective, is that we were designed, like, I think this is so cool. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it real and how I see it. God gave us so many health benefits of fasting, like I shared with you, and mental benefits of fasting. And I think that's not an accident, because there's so many spiritual benefits of fasting. And so if we fast, we have a longer life. And so if you fast and pray for God and to create clarity and space for him to speak to you and, surrender and be obedient and all these things, doesn't that make sense that you'd also have all these other benefits, right? And so I just love it. I just think it's so cool. Like, I remember giving a talk. I was in this business group at a church I was attending a couple years ago. And we kind of all were able to share on certain things. And that's what I spoke about, was the benefit of fasting from a spiritual and physical perspective. And it was a riveting conversation, let me tell you, my friends. But I really do believe that it will change your life, and it will become an arrow in your quiver if you choose and you experience it for yourself, in my opinion, that you will never want to replace. Like nothing can really replace it. And so that would be my encouragement to you. Okay, it gives you an edge. Gives you a nice edge. So anyways, team, I just want to add this at the end that I appreciate recording these and being able to edit them because if you would have seen and heard the real rendition, like unedited version of today's podcast, then you probably would have stopped a long time ago if you made it this far because or you would have just been really entertained by how interjected that it was. So I'm actually day one of a fast right now. And so I'm not to the mental clarity yet. Okay. It's part of why I want to talk about it today. And so I've just been laughing at myself and bless Kate, my assistant, who's really more than that edits these for me. Thank you. Bless you, Kate, because she had to battle the 10 different. It's funny. I record this on Zoom right now because my camera's broken. Long story short, I'll fix it when I'm back in Idaho. But it's on two Zooms. It's on two Zoom, like two separate Zoom recordings. And so I'm really hoping that it came through effectively for you and you got value from it because I'm about to take 3 days off and I want to get this out there and I'm really passionate in talking about it right now. And I do my best to talk about things that I'm like in the zone, fired up about because I feel like it comes through better. But man, it is so funny on this other end of things. And I share that with you because just keeping it real. That's just how I like to roll. So anywho, appreciate you team for being here. Love you long time and we'll talk soon.